Course 2, and today we're going to learn about some prescribing stuff. These are everything that I learned during my CMED course and everything else that I learned from all my doctors in Canada. Anyways, I hope this helps you as well. So what we're going to learn about is, for example, if you have some sort of a cream or a solution or whatever, you want to learn how to calculate its percentage or its active ingredient. Then we're going to learn about some information regarding prescribing enoxaparin because those are super important. Then we're going to learn about vancomycin and how are we going to prescribe for different cases. Then we're going to learn the same thing about gentamicin because they're a little bit tricky. There you go. And then we're going to finish it off with question 9, where we're going to learn about some maintenance doses. For example, if you want to give fluids to some kid, how do you give maintenance? What are the rules? Okay. All right, let's go through that. So the first rule that I want you to be familiar with is the percentage. I can tell you I have 1% of this cream in a tube, or I can tell you I have 1% of some sort of a solution in a syringe that I want to inject you with. Well, you need to understand if there's percentage on it, what does that mean? Okay, if I have 1% of some sort of a tube or a cream, let's say, that means if it's 1%, it means I have 1 gram over 100 grams of that tube. It's the active ingredient, okay? Same thing, if I have 1% of a certain type of solution, that translates to 1%, translates to 1 gram over 100 milliliters. Make sure you understand this. Make sure you, let's do another question. If I told you I have 3.5%, or if I have 10%, let's do 10%. That means 10 goes on the top, then gram over 100 grams if it was some sort of a tube or a topical cream. If this was 10% of a certain solution, then you write 10 grams over 100 milliliters of that whatever solution you're talking about. Okay, let's do one sample question together. They tell you you have 1% hydrocortisone. It's a tube and it has 30 grams in it. How much is the active hydrocortisone in there? And they want the answer in milligrams. Okay, when they tell you the tube is 30 grams, imagine this tube. If you were to weigh the stuff inside, it comes down to 30. So the total thing weighs 30 grams. And you want to know how much of that, the entire creamy stuff is in there. It's actually hydrocortisone. How many milligrams of it is hydrocortisone, right? Because it could be some filler stuff, some creamy stuff. We don't know. You want to know the active ingredient of hydrocortisone. Well, in order to know that, they're giving you the percentage. So you want to calculate how many milligrams of it? Well, this is how you go about it. Always start off with what you know. And this is what you know. They tell you 1% hydrocortisone. So we said it's a topical, it's a tube thing. So what does that mean? It means it's a gram over gram. So write that. It says 1%, so 1 over 100. Grams over grams. Good. Equal sign, and write the second part of the equation. And that's a tube of 30 grams. So the entire thing, the total weight is 30. So always total, guys, goes at the bottom, not at the top. Because you also wrote 100% as 100 is total. It also went at the bottom. So same thing. And then you want to know how many grams of hydrocortisone there is. There you have it. So you're going to solve for X. So 1 times 30 divided by 100. And remember, I wrote down all the units. So gram and gram cancels out and you're left with a gram. So please write that first before anything else, before doing any calculations, because that's how the questions will get you. Then do this calculation and you get this value, okay? As soon as students get this value, 0.3, and then just look for the answer sheet, and then, for example, A, B, C, D, one of them is 0.3, the other one is 3, and then the other one is 30, and then the last one is like 300. And they're just, oh my God, as soon as they find this, they go pick it. That's wrong. Because I told you, you're going to have to write down the gram, the unit. But the question asks, look, milligrams. So please convert this to this. And how do you do that? Grams to milligrams. So you multiply it by 1,000, and that's how you get milligrams. So you make sure you pick 300 milligrams. Yeah? Okay. we're going to do this question. You're going to pause. Once you solve this equation, come back and unpause the video to find the answers, okay? Good. So the question says, you have 3.5% of a tube with the drug X. The entire drug X, which is a tube, so you know it's a cream, weighs 90 grams, okay? They want to know the active ingredient. Again, it's a similar question. Let's see if you got it. So we said it's a tube, so are you going to go with this one or this one? Good job, you're going to go with that. So it's 3.5%, so write down 3.5 on the top, 100 at the bottom, gram, gram. Good. Equal sign and write this line. Again, you know it's a 90 grams. It's a total. Goes at the bottom and solve for x. Perfect. It's the same type of calculation. Again, you come up with this. Again, remember gram, gram, gram. Write down gram. If the question's asking for milligram, convert it, and that's how you write the answer choice. Another way they can get you for this question is that they write this in milligram. And again, students forget the fact that this equation is all based on grams. So if you put 90 here, you will get the wrong answer because look, the unit, it always has to be grams here. So if you get in a question something like this, please convert this milligram to your gram. So how do you convert that? Divide it by 1,000. So if you were to divide that by 1,000, what do you guys get? So 1, 2, 3. So you get 0.09. And the unit will be gram. So you're going to take this value, 0.09 grams, and you're going to plot it down at the bottom here, not 90. Okay, this is how they can get you in the exam. Again, one last time, I promise, everything in here is grams only. Okay, so but that was not the question, so I'm going to go backwards. Okay. Again, pause, then come back for the answer. Try to solve it yourself. You have 50-gram tube. So the entire thing, the total is a 50-gram tube. Then you know the active ingredient is 200 milligrams of hydrocortisone or whatever drug. Okay, they want to know its percentage. Now, so far, everything else we practiced, you had the percentage like here, then you solve for the gram itself. Now the question is reversed. They're telling you this part of the equation and they want that part, the percentage. So you're going to solve the x becomes down this side. Okay, so let's see if you can get it. So I told you you're looking for the percentage. So what you're going to do here, we don't know what the percentage is. So put x for the percentage and then write down it over 100. Again, remember, write down gram over gram. Why? Because it's a tube. They told you it's not a solution, so the unit won't be milliliters, right? Then they tell you that the total is 50 grams. So again, remember I told you 50 goes at the bottom. Okay, so 50 right down at the bottom. Then the 200 milligrams of active ingredient. Are you going to write 200 here? No, because you know better, because I told you that this entire equation in the previous question, remember? I told you that this entire thing was gram club only. So here you have to write another gram. So you have to divide this value by 1,000. So you get 0.2 grams. And that's what you're going to put here. Okay, and then you're going to solve for your x. And so when you solve for x, you're going to write gram, gram, gram. Again, these two cancel out. You're going to left with a gram here. And then on the other side, you have a gram. These 2 grams cancel out. And guess what? You get a ratio of 0.4. So is it a ratio of 0.4? Again, the unit at the bottom was 100. So that means you have 0.4%. And that would be the correct answer. Remember, if you don't fix for this, and you've put 200 here, the wrong answer will also be in your ABCDs in your answer choice, and that's, again, how they get you. Remember to convert that, yeah? All right. You have something else called enoxaparin. So let's say the questions that you might get for enoxaparin is someone, let's say, who has deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, and they want you to prescribe them enoxaparin. So how do you do it? Usually, enoxaparin, guys, come in a pre-formed or a pre-made syringes. They're already ready. So you need to figure out which one of those syringes you're going to choose. Are you going to choose a syringe of 20 milligrams? Again, which these are also fair game. So understand these conversions as well. A 20 milligram is the same as 2,000 international units of enoxaparin. Injection in a 0.2 mils of water. Okay, so understand this conversion. But for now, don't forget about all this stuff. Let's just focus on this part. So enoxaparin is already pre-made, I told you, in a syringes, and they either come in a 20 milligrams, 40, 60, 80, or 100. Do you notice, all my mathematicians, do you notice that they're all multiplications of a 20? So 1 times 20 is 20. 2 times 20 is 40. 3 times 20 is 60. 4 times 20 is 80. 5 times 20 is 100. So these numbers, and it's not like 1 point, it's only 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see. It's not 2.5, it's not 3.5, it's a round number. And so a guy comes in. How do you know which one of these syringes to give him? Well, guys, it's based on the kilograms and how much they weigh. So let's do a question next together. A guy comes in, he's 60 kilograms, and you notice that, you know what, he has a diagnosis of deep vein thrombosis. And the question tells you that you want to give him enoxaparin. And you want to give enoxaparin, and they're giving you the dose of 1.5 milligrams per kilogram. And they want you to give this to him once daily. Which syringe of all of these stuff, for example, this could be A, B, C, D, E, from this multiple choice, which syringe would you pick? How do you tackle this question? Okay, let's go up. Start with what you know. You know that the patient weighs 60 kilograms. So write that down, 60 kilos. Then multiply it by, they're giving you how to give it to him, right? So it's 1.5 milligrams per kilogram. So you need to write this part of the equation, but remember, you want kilogram to be at the bottom. Why? Because you can cancel this part with this kilo. So if you put kilogram on top and 1.5 milligrams on the bottom, that would be the wrong way of writing it, because you wrote down 6 kilograms here. So you want the denominator to have the kilogram, and then 1.5 milligram goes here. And that's exactly what they're telling you. Anyways, you multiply, therefore, 60 by 1.5. And then kilograms cancel out. What you're left with is milligrams, and you're going to write the unit first. Then do the calculations, and you get 90. Okay, perfect. And you tell your resident, okay, doctor, I'm going to give him 90 mils. But then he tells you, dude, look, it only comes in 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. So which one of these syringes are you going to pick? So you have two options. You can have all of these memorized and try to be like, well, I have 90. Well, you can't give him less. You can't give him 80 or 60. The dude needs 80 mils, right? Or milligrams. So what you can do is pick 100, and just instead of giving 100, you give him 90 and then discard the remaining 10. But if you can't remember and write down all of this, if you can't see this, what you can do is a little cheat sheet that I created, and this is how you know. I told you, remember, it comes in a multiplications of 20, 2 times 20, 3 times 20, 4 times. So you want to find this multiplication that I written here on the side. How do you do that? This value that you got, 90 milligrams, right? Divided by, I said it's a multiplication of a 20. So you already know, just remember that enoxaparin comes in multiples of 20. So divide your value, the 90 that you got here, divided by 20. So you get a ratio of 4.5. So do you have a 4.5 here? No, I told you it's a rounded number. So round this up and you get a 5. So that means you're going to have to multiply 20 by a 5, and ta-da! You get 100 milligrams. And that's exactly what you're going to give the guy. So again, you multiply, I told you, 5 by a 20, just like I explained above. You get 100 milligrams, and this is the syringe you're going to use. And remember, the guy only needs 90 milligrams, so only give him 90 mils, and then discard the remaining 10 milligrams. It has markings on it, so just, it's super easy, and that's how you go about it. Okay, I'm glad you guys got that. Now, let's learn about vancomycin. Vancomycin, before we learn about how to prescribe it and before we do some examples, I want you to introduce you some of the rules. And so vancomycin is usually used for MRSA, so methicillin-resistant stuff, right? But the question will tell you that I want you to give Vanco, okay? So don't flip out at this point. But if you know that you're dealing with a MRSA, you need to know how severe the case is. Is it severe or is it not severe? Because if it's severe, you're going to give a loading dose of a 25 milligrams per kilogram first. Then you're going to add a 15 milligrams per kilograms for ongoing. That's if it is severe. Now, if it's not severe methicillin resistance or like an infection, if it's not a severe MRSA infection, you will omit that. Obviously, you're just going to start off with a 15 milligrams per kilogram. Then you might say, well, Paris, what is severe and what's not a severe MRSA infection? That's a very good question if you did ask that. So if the question then says, oh, the guy has sepsis, that means it's in the blood. The infection is blood related. Or if they say they have bone infection, osteomyelitis, right? Or they say there's a meningitis, so anything in the brain, that means it's a severe infection. But let's say the questions then told you, oh, he has some sort of a skin infection, it's MRSA, then you know it's not as severe. So remember these two samples when the question is telling you, and that's how you can differentiate. Vancomycin. Now moving on to the prep. Remember how we went up here, I told you about how enoxaparin comes in pre-made stuff. So vancomycin kind of has a proper dosage that is already available. So you want to make sure you know those. You don't, if you have time to memorize it, fine. Memorize its entire order. It comes in these preparations. But I highly recommend you just remember 250. And that it's a multiplications of a 250. So you multiply 250 by 1, 250 by 2, 250 multiplied by 3, you get 750. 250 multiplied by 4, you get 1,000. And keep going. 250 multiplied by 5, you get this. Multiplied by 6, you get that. 7 and 8. Anyways, if you multiply 250 by 8, you get a maximum of 2,000, and that's a maximum dose you're allowed to give anybody. So do not go over 2,000 milligrams, okay? Okay, I promise one more rule, and that's the frequency. So let's say you do all of this, you understand how much milligrams you're supposed to give to your patient, but will you give it once a day? Will you give it twice a day? How often would you give it? And so this is the rule. In order to find out how many times to give this drug to your patient, you need to look at their creatinine clearance. And this will be given in the questions then, okay? So you look at the patient's creatinine clearance. If the creatinine is between 50 to 30, you give him 48 hourly. If it's between 30 to 60, you give him once a day. And if it's between 60 or even higher, you give him twice daily. So that's bi-daily or BD. You could memorize this if you want, but the way I went with it for my exam is I just went with logic. Look, 60 or higher, it means the creatinine clearance, your kidneys are working perfectly. It's above 60. If it's below 60, it means you're in trouble. But anything for creatinine clearance is above 60, then that means you're Gucci, right? So your kidneys can handle the drug. So that means, you know what? Give him twice a day. It's okay. He can take it. His kidneys are good. But let's say if it's in the trouble area of 30 to 60, his kidneys, you know what? He's not doing the best that he could do. You know what? Don't give the drug too much. Maybe just give him once a day, you know? And if the kidneys are really bad and the creatinine clearance is not enough, it's between 50 to 30, dude, the kidneys are toast. So he can barely really handle this drug because this drug is cleared also through your kidney. So you know what? Give him every 48 hours. Right? So it's spread out in a very, like a more in time period. So you're giving me even less than this once a day or bi-daily. Okay? So have that logic and just remember this increments, 15 to 30, 30 to 60, and 60 and above. Okay? Now that we know this rule, let's see if we can do a question. Okay, let's start off with this. Guys, pause this, think, and then come back. You have a 66 kilogram patient. He has a skin infection. You already know, it's not as severe and that it's right in this section. So you already know you're going to start off with 50 milligrams per kilogram. Okay, good. They're telling you that his creatinine clearance is 60. Ooh, perfect. So it's around this range. So you know the frequency you already give him bi-daily. Okay, you already know you're getting some marks for the questions already. Perfect. Then they're telling you he needs vancomycin. Okay. But what dose would you give him? All right, all we now need to fall is through here. Okay, let's try to figure this out. Again, start off with what you know, patient's weight, 66 kilogram, write that down. Then I told you here, it's a skin infection. It's not a serious infection. So it's not serious. It goes down to here. So you give him 15 milligrams per kilogram. So multiply 66 by 15 milligrams per kilogram. And you get 990 milligrams. On the exam day, you might not be, you don't have the time to write all of these down so that you can see where this 990 lies in here. Because, well, if you have time, fine, go write all this down. 990 is right before, it's between these two numbers, right? So it goes in here and you round it up. And so you give the patients 1,000 milligrams. Problem solved. Next question. Done. But the thing is, you don't have time to write this down. How can you get this 1,000? Again, you can use this cheating mechanism that I taught you. Take your 990 divided by 250 because, again, remember I told you it comes in multiplications of a 250. Look, 1 times 250 is 1. 2 times 250 is 500. 3 times 250, 4 times 250, as you can see. So you're trying to find these numbers. You want to see if it's 8 times 250, 7, 5, 4, 6. Well, let's find that. This answer was 990. Divided by 250, you get 3.8. Again, you round it up because you didn't have any, 2.5, whatever. It was a whole number. So what do you get? If you round up 3.8, you get a 4. So you're going to multiply 4 by 250. And that's exactly what I've written here. 4 times 250, it comes down to 1,000. And that's exactly what you give him. And ta-da, see, it was the same answer that we chose before. So now you know 2 different ways to go about finding this 1,000. If the question wanted the answer in milligrams, please choose 1,000. If they wanted you in grams, convert please and get a gram. Again, this is how they get you. Make sure you read the question regarding the unit. And then frequency, we said it was bidaily. Why? Can someone tell me why? Exactly, because there you go. The creatine's clearance was above 60, and therefore this section you need to memorize. This section only know 250, so you can divide it to get the multip. And then here you need to memorize whether if it's severe or no severe. Always remember, for example, skin infection is not a severe, but anything to your brain, bone, and blood, that's a severe infection. Therefore, you need to give a bowling dose, or not a bowling, sorry, a loading dose of 25 first. Then you're going to add this afterwards. Okay, let's do another question. All right, let's do the same question, but let's change the patient's weight. Before he was 66 kilos, now he's 166 kilos. Before he had a 60 creatinine clearance, but now I change it to 35. Can you tell me the dose and frequency, please? Pause, come back. Okay, welcome back. So again, you start off with 166 kilos because that's what it was given. You're going to multiply it by 15. Why? Because I told you it's the same case. So that means it's a skin infection. So for skin infection, what was the rule? You need to memorize that. 15 milligrams per kilogram. Ta-da! So you multiply these two together, you get that value. Do you need to divide this by 250 like before to get the ratio? I mean, you could, but remember, it's already above 2,000. It's 2,400. Honey, go back up. Look over here. I told you the max was 2,000 already. Remember? So you don't even need to calculate because you are going to give him the maximum, which is 2,000. You cannot give him more than that. So in the answer choice, please choose a 2,000 milligram as your correct answer. Again, that was another tricky one, eh? Next question. Let's say you have a 76 kilogram patient. He has meningitis, and then his creatinine clearance is 29. They want you to know for vancomycin what dose and frequency you give him. Okay, let's break it down. Pause, come back. All right. He has meningitis, so it's a severe infection. So for severe, what did we say? We need to give a loading dose of 25. Then we're going to do a 15 milligrams per kilograms. Good. For creatinine clearance of 29, again, you have to have that memorized. What was the rule? If it's between 30 to 60 was once daily. If it was 15 to 30 was 48 hourly. And this guy has a 29. So that means you're going to give him every 48 hours. Okay? Okay, perfectly. All right, let's calculate now. There you go. He's 75 kilograms. Start off with that. I told you it's meningitis, so it's serious. So first you're going to give a loading dose of 25. And then when you multiply these, you get that value, and that's your loading dose. And I want to know exactly where I land with, if I round this up, what do I get? Again, we said it was multiplications of 250. So divide that value by 250, you get 7.5. Rounded up comes down to 8. Then multiply 8 by a 250, you get a 2,000. If you don't like this cheating sheet, fine. Write everything down and find where 1,875 lies. 1,875. So somewhere here. So you're going to give him 2,000. And that's the multiplication of 8. And that's exactly what we did here with the cheating method. I don't know. I really like this situation that I, came up with. Then this is just the loading dose. So please don't find this and just move on to the next question. Remember, because it was meningitis. So this was the loading dose. So you have to give him the remaining of 15 milligrams per kilogram. Again, multiply it by 75, 15 milligrams per kilogram. You get that. Again, you want to know where 1125 is sitting in this ladder, 1125. So it's somewhere between these two. So you give him 1250. But how do I come up with 1250? You want to find this 5. The way you go about it here, you see, I told you want to find the 5. How did I find the 5? 11,250 divided by 250, because it's a multiplication of a 250. You get 4.5, round it up, you get 5. So 5 times 250, 1250 is what you give him. Frequency is 48 hourly.